companions. In the bush, I often come across poachers, and more often across signs that they are active in the area. Poaching is part of Africa. It's woven into its fabric like a thread. Now, I think all of us will agree that poaching should be abhorred for various reasons. It's first of all, it's against the law. Secondly, one has conservation concerns. And thirdly, poachers kill animals in very cruel ways. Animals that are caught in snares and traps take a long time to die. Often they break free and they get away, but they are maimed for life and they sometimes die afterwards of shock or incapacity. I have come over many poachers and signs of poachers in the wilderness. It's part of the African wilderness. African people have lived off the land, off the bush, for generations. And they have harvested meat from the bush. So these laws and regulations and promulgations that are made in some capital somewhere that they don't even quite know where it is, mean very little to these people living in their little bush villages, isolated by days of walking, and even living semi-nomadically in little family groups in the bush. So they carry on with their lives. And I thought maybe I could share one or two stories about what I saw with you while we're on the subject of poaching. Those that carry the dust of the African bush on their feet will know that poaching is a complex issue with many dimensions and nuances. When I think about poachers, I think about them in three categories. Now, of course, like all things in life, these categories are not watertight. But the first category are what I call the meat or the protein poachers. This is an example of two protein poachers. They are semi-nomads and they live off the bush, and they're on their way to go and check their snares and to see if they can't get any fish caught in a fake. That's their way of life, has always been their way of life. These are usually good people that live simple lives, and they are excellent bush companions because their way of life gives them an intimate knowledge of the bush. It's fundamental, it's almost elemental and intuitive. The second category are what I call the commercial poachers. Now, these guys have learnt that they can poach for their own personal gain. They typically live in towns and villages close to the edge of the wilderness, and they move into an area in bands, 4, 5, up to 20, even more, I have found. They move around in the bush from area to area, and then they make a kind of a base camp, and they hunt around them, and they kill anything that they can find, totally indiscriminately. These guys really strip the bush. They use old muskets, homemade pipe guns, and of course also leftovers from the African bush wars. They are dangerous and destructive people, especially for someone like me that is walking around alone in the bush. The booty that they take from the bush is sold in the middle world mostly in the form of dried meat and skins, but a lot of it go into the cities of the modern world where there's a market for bush artifacts among the traditionalists. The third group are the guys that hunt to satisfy the need of the superstitious wealthy in the modern world. These guys are probably the most abhorrent of all poachers. They live in the middle world, close to the edge of the wilderness, some even in the wilderness, in villages and so on. And they move in. They typically move in small groups, 3 to 4. They are extremely well armed with modern weapons, often automatic weapons, or at least some automatic weapons to protect themselves. And they kill, cut out, and leave immediately in a very smooth operation. Often they are guided by a local connection that they have. These guys are part of quite a sophisticated supply chain that stretch right into the big cities of the modern world. So they don't act alone. They aim for the superstitions of the vain and the wealthy behind their white walls and in their glass towers there. The obscenity of their activity is not only in the repulsiveness of the kill that they make, but also in the satisfaction of the salacious perversities of the rich. Companions, in the end, poaching is a mirror. It reflects both the desperation of survival and the corruption of desire. To walk among it is to glimpse the uneasy bond between man and the wild. It's a reminder that morality is shaped by hunger and by the long shadow of greed and need and ignorance. Companions, I am thinking of having 3 or so posts on poachers, where I tell you a story about my experience of poachers in each of the 3 categories. I hope that this has pricked your interest enough and that you will join me again in the following weeks. Good luck in the meantime.